Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Saturday, July 6th. Over the next few days, we'll continue to have significant heat across the Great Basin. A very strong ridge of high pressure is centered along the west coast and will gradually push eastward into mainly the western half of the Great Basin, is where we'll see temperatures near or at records. Other areas of the Great Basin eventually will see well above normal temperatures, but really just not the records that we'll see on the west side. Also, on the east side of this ridge of high pressure, we have an area of low pressure dropping into the northern Rockies, which will kick up winds today across the Great Basin from southern Idaho into northeast Nevada and eastern and southern Utah. The area in brown will see stronger wind gusts near or above 40 miles per hour with low relative humidity. And then the areas in orange will see more moderate winds of 20 to 30 miles per hour. On Sunday, as this system drops south and east into the Rockies, it will push those winds further south into eastern Nevada and southern and central Utah. So these winds, both today and tomorrow, will affect our large fires in Utah with those low relative humidities and gusty winds. On Monday, maybe just some breezy winds remaining over parts of southwest Utah or the Arizona Strip, but most stronger winds will be moving out of the area. Also, along with these very dry daytime conditions, we will see very poor overnight recoveries over western and southern areas of the Great Basin. No precipitation and lightning in the last 24 hours. We did have a much more active fire day yesterday with 83 new fires reported for over 837 acres. And you can see where the red dots are all our new fires around the Great Basin. Did have a new large fire, the Silver King, which is down near Little Twist on the Fish Lake in Utah. Also a larger fire, which does not seem to be of too much concern up in southwest Idaho at this time. We've seen very dry conditions over the western half of the Great Basin over the last 14 days. And over parts of eastern Idaho, Wyoming, and northern Utah, with the moisture really confined to southern and eastern Utah. But even those areas have seen significant drying, and we're seeing our ERCs really start to climb, with many areas in the south over the 90th or 97th percentile, and even on the west side of the Great Basin, seeing those values as well along the Sierra Front and in northwest Nevada. Otherwise, Utah continues to dry out, as well as the rest of the Great Basin, but we're seeing a lot more 80th and 90th percentile ERCs in northern Utah, and then continued up in Wyoming. Looking at some of our charts, our 100-hour fuel moistures along the Sierra Front are showing a significant decline. They are well below normal and heading towards setting new record lows for the time of year. This is really representative of our 100-hour fuel moistures across much of Nevada and Utah and Arizona. Similarly, we're seeing our ERCs significantly rise across the Great Basin. Many areas across Nevada and Utah, especially into northern Arizona, will be setting records by the end of the 7-day period. Here's our ridge of high pressure dominating the west coast this morning, and again, that will gradually tick eastward going through the next 5 to 7 days. So today, those very dry conditions, you can see that system dropping into eastern Montana and Wyoming, which is what will kick up our winds. So we do have high risk in southern Idaho and northeast Nevada, where those winds will be the strongest, and also coupled with the lowest humidity and critical fuels. However, a much larger area of wind will affect the Great Basin. You can see that over much of Idaho, Wyoming, and even down into central and northern Utah and northeast Nevada. Single-digit relative humidity will continue across Nevada and Utah and northern Arizona and creep into southwest Idaho today. And temperatures will reach 106 over western Nevada, 114 in the south, and be increasing to above 90 degrees in parts of Utah as well. We'll be near 100 degrees up in parts of the lower elevations of Idaho. You can see our overnight humidity recovery, only recovering into the single digits in the far south, in teens in most other areas of Nevada and Utah. We'll still continue to see better recoveries up north in Idaho and Wyoming. On Sunday, the heat dome continues across the Great Basin, so we do have high risk for heat over a large area of western and southern Nevada. Those winds on Sunday will push south, so we'll see the bigger risk for stronger winds over southern, central, and eastern Utah. And you can see relative humidity doesn't change a whole lot, but those winds really push south. So over much of southern Utah, central Utah, so our large fires on the Fish Lake will definitely be impacted by stronger winds tomorrow, as well as gusty winds today. And those winds even tail back into eastern Nevada. Temperatures continue to rise, again, mostly hottest over western and southern Nevada, which is where most areas will see near or at record temperatures. And then our overnight recoveries, maybe a little bit better in central and eastern Utah than tonight. However, those will be heading downward. On Monday, continued high risk for those significantly warm temperatures and near or at records, and even creeping up into southwest Idaho. Single-digit relative humidities in all areas with the exception of parts of central and eastern Idaho, Wyoming, and far northern Utah. Winds on Monday will really decrease with the exception of parts of the Arizona Strip into southwest Utah. Temperatures remain very hot. We'll be reaching 100 degrees in Boise by early next week, and again, very poor overnight recoveries for Nevada and Utah. No rain in the forecast for the next 3 days, and probably for the next 7 days in many areas. The ridge continues to slide eastward on Tuesday. We don't have any high risk for those record temperatures on Tuesday, but we still could certainly see some areas near records, so we might have to add some high risk there, but otherwise still well above normal temperatures and very dry conditions for the Great Basin. Continues into Wednesday as well. We'll have to watch as some of this very weak mid-level moisture creeps under the ridge to see if that's enough to pop any thunderstorm activity by the middle of next week. Right now, it doesn't look like anything significant. Possibly by Thursday and Friday, we might have a better chance for very isolated thunderstorms. That return of thunderstorms will be very important across the Great Basin because any lightning activity, even if it produces a little bit of rainfall, will still be on the dry side and happening after a very critical heat wave and fuel conditions that are critical in all areas. So we'll be watching the return of any lightning very closely. So no precipitation really on the 7-day. You can see a couple of blips here in southern and southeast Utah, and that will be towards the middle of next week where we could see a few of those thunderstorms pop. We'll be watching areas further north into Nevada and central Utah as well, but right now still very isolated chances with the bulk of that moisture really staying into New Mexico, southern Arizona, and Colorado. The 8 to 14-day outlook taking us from July 13th through the 19th still shows very warm temperatures for the Great Basin, and that moisture obviously returning to southern and eastern areas. That concludes the webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.